Hey, what's up? In today's video, we're going to be covering 6 cold email tips to instantly help you book more meetings. If you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Lucero. I run a B2B lead gen agency that works on a pay-per-show basis over at anivomarketing.com, and we use cold email to book meetings for ourselves and our clients. There's an example up on the screen. This was just from a couple weeks ago. We helped a client book 7 meetings in 7 days, so you know this stuff works. Diving straight into the video, the first tip that I want to give you to instantly help you book more meetings is to just have an irresistible offer. And I really can't stress this enough. This is the biggest lever in making people want to book a call with you over cold email, okay? You need to sell something that people find irresistible. The whole premise of reaching out to people, whether it's to connect with them over cold emailing, paid ads, cold calling, it's to sell something that people want, right? It sounds really simple. You just sell something that people want, but a lot of people work it the other way around. They start their business, they say, I want to sell this, and then the market doesn't want it. So you need to sell something that people want. Most people get away with signing clients with boring offers or irrelevant offers because they only sell to people within their network. While this can work, you're only limited to selling to people who buy from you because they're buying from you, not because of the product. This makes business growth hard, and it makes you reliant on your network for leads. Overall, this is just a bad idea because if your network is the only way that you can generate leads for your business, it's going to be really hard to grow because you're constrained only by them. So to truly be able to sell to people who have no idea who you are, you need to have a phenomenal product offering. And you have to let the offer actually do the talking. So there's multiple ways to do this, and I'm going to cover all of them. So the first thing is to actually solve a painful problem. Who would have thought, right? If you solve important issues, people will become more attractive to your service. So an example, helping someone get more views versus helping someone make more money. I see this with people selling content. They say, hey, we're going to help you make more YouTube videos. We're going to help you make more shorts. We're going to help you make more LinkedIn content, this or that. Versus, hey, we're going to help you make more money using this mechanism or using this method. And that's instantly more compelling because not many people care about getting more views, but a lot more people care about getting more money. So that's an example of solving a painful problem. Another example is risk reversal. So lowering the downside of someone working with you. So the ways you can do this is with guarantees or with performative based work. So for example, if you're selling a service, you say, hey, I'm going to make you a bunch of money. It's going to cost $3,000 a month. But if you work on performance, then you say, hey, it costs X amount, but you're only paying for the result that you get. Or you say, hey, we charge $3,000 a month, but if you don't get this result in this time frame, then you get your money back. So stuff like that makes a huge difference in how many meetings you book, and overall will just make your whole business journey much easier. Another piece is effort. The less that people have to do, the more appealing your service is. The example I give is courses versus coaching versus done for you. If you say, hey, I'm going to show you how to make a video versus, hey, I'm going to personally coach you on how to make a video versus, hey, you say, I'm going to make the videos for you. That's the best thing you can do because it requires the least amount of effort. And then speed. The faster you can do something, the more it's worth. If you say you can make someone 10K in 6 months versus 10K in 2 years, obviously 6 months is more compelling. So these are different ways that you can make your offer more relevant and thus more irresistible so that you can book more meetings. Sell things that are attractive, and you're instantly going to get more interest in your offer from cold email and just really anything in general, but especially so in cold email. The second tip that I want to cover is relevant targeting. So cool, now you have a good offer, but do the people you actually target want it? Okay. The reason why I say this is because too many times people think their audience wants their service when in reality it can be a completely different audience that resonates with what you're selling. So this can manifest itself in multiple ways, such as industries that you're targeting, specific titles at companies, and specific headcounts of companies. So breaking these 3 down, let's start with industries. Not every industry has the same pain points. Thus, your offer might not resonate with that audience. People get this wrong so many times. They say, hey, I want to sell Facebook ads to chiropractors or e-commerce or whatever. A lot of these guys already have this solution in place. A lot of people, for example, might already have ads in place. Some people might have your product or solution already figured out. So not every industry needs it. So for an example, branding services for e-commerce versus plumbing. If I were to wager, plumbers probably don't care as much about branding. If you think of a blue collar guy doing, running his own show, he's not going to care as much about branding services compared to an e-commerce company that lives and thrives off of a brand, is on the internet more, and is more receptive to that kind of stuff compared to a plumber, for example. Okay. Another example, job titles. So pain points massively vary between job titles of a company. Everyone has different motives in an organization, and some people don't even have authority to make decisions. This is what a lot of people mess up. Different motives in different parts of the company, and some people don't even have decision maker authority. So an example, revenue growth for a CEO versus a head of IT. So for example, if you're selling marketing services and you pitch it to a head of IT, he's not going to care because all he's focused on is IT. Versus if you pitch it to a CEO, that person might care a lot more. And I use this example. This is a very obvious example. You're like, of course, the CEO cares more about revenue than the head of IT. But this is just what I'm trying to illustrate, that there's nuance, right? There's more scenarios where someone might reach out to a lower level marketing manager and those guys don't care as much about revenue compared to the CEO. So just an example there. Another example, headcounts. Different company sizes have different pain points. Smaller companies typically have issues around product market fit and growth, and larger companies might have more logistical niche issues. So an example, if you're selling cyber insurance, right, in case you get hit with a cyber attack, if you sell that to a solopreneur, he's not thinking about a cyber attack. He's thinking about how he can get his first 20 clients, versus an enterprise-sized company might care a lot more because they're worried about mitigating risk, they're worried about covering their bases, and they have the budget to pay for stuff like that. So that's another example. Headcounts, make sure that those are optimized. Make sure that your market is actually aligned with what you're selling, because if you target the wrong people, you're not going to get any meetings, and the meetings you are going to get aren't going to be qualified. So as a general rule of thumb for established businesses, the most relevant targeting is typically where most of your clients are. So if you sell, for example, video services, and you realize that local businesses are the ones that buy the video services the most, then sell it to local businesses. If you realize it's dentists that buy it the most, sell it to dentists. Because typically, if you see people wanting and gravitating towards your service, those are probably the best people to reach out to because they need it the most. Getting on into the third tip, make people trust you, okay? Make them trust you over cold email. So once again, this sounds kind of obvious, but people don't think about this, right? When you reach out to someone cold, you need to understand the context of what you're actually doing. You just sent someone an email and they have no idea who you are, okay? You spawned out of thin air. They are now reading your email and they're completely skeptical of whatever you write. You could write anything, they're instantly going to be skeptical, so your job is to make sure that they trust you right off the gate. They're already operating from a lack of trust, so the responsibility is on you to make them believe you as a person, believe your product or your service. So that is your goal, is to make them trust you, and this will help you book way, way, way more meetings, okay? The first question someone has when they get an email from a stranger is, who are you and why can you do what you say you can do, okay? So making someone trust you comes down to having a real business and real business assets in place. So for example, an optimized LinkedIn profile. A lot of people don't do this. If I look up your name and you don't exist, then they're not going to trust you, because people are people, right? If you get a random cold email from a stranger, you're going to look someone up. So you must have a LinkedIn profile that's optimized, a website with branding and a name. These are basic things, but a lot of people don't have them. And if you get an email from someone and they look up your website and nothing's there, then they're not going to trust you. Another thing, having email copy that sounds human. A lot of people send emails. It doesn't sound trustworthy because they sound like a marketing brochure. They sound like an infomercial from the last 20 years. And then they wonder why no responses come in or no meetings come in. It's because you don't sound human. You don't sound trustworthy. You need to come across as just a normal guy who's trustworthy, who has a service that's worth buying. If you have terrible grammar and you don't exist anywhere on the internet, red flags go off. No one who's worth working with doesn't have a website and doesn't exist anywhere else on the internet. Just think, if you want to hire someone and they don't have a website, what does that mean about them? Does that mean that they even have a legitimate business? You don't know what you're dealing with if they don't have a website, if they don't exist. You need to be able to be found on a Google search. And then secondarily, if people even trust you as a person, they need to trust you as a business. So this comes in the form of case studies. Anyone can say, hey, I help you get this result in this time frame, but you really stand out when you include proof, okay? I see this all the time. Someone will go and they'll say, hey, I can book 50 meetings a month. And then you look and they have no case studies, no testimonials, no client results. And you're like, well, do I really believe you? So something as simple as we helped company name get result can massively increase your reply rate and your meeting booking rate in your cold emails. So just including a simple one-line case study, this can massively, massively, massively increase your reply rate and meeting booking rate. I've seen this firsthand on so many occasions. The difference between you having a case study and you not having case studies and the magnitude of case studies you have makes an enormous difference on how many meetings you book. So try and reverse engineer trust, and you're going to get more meetings, because trust is the foundation of pretty much all of business. The fourth tip, rock solid deliverability. People overlook this, but you're not going to book nearly as many meetings from your cold emails if your emails land in the spam folder. Plain and simple, right? Not only do people read way less emails from their spam folder, but you instantly lose credibility if your email's in the spam folder. Can you imagine, like, even if you get a rock solid email, everything's perfect, their website's in place, everything's good, but it's just in the spam folder, you just associate that with, oh, this guy might be a scammer. You don't know, it just ended up in your spam folder, so you just don't trust it, just simply by virtue of it being in your spam folder. So you can have literally everything else in place, everything in your campaign perfectly dialed, but best case scenario, your emails will just get read less often if they go into spam, and worst case scenarios, the emails won't get read at all, and you're associated with scammers. So you can fix this by following the best cold email practices. Here's a list of them. So managing your IP reputation. If you're using an IP that's associated with spam, you're going to go to spam. So the thing that I recommend is use trusted providers, use Outlook or G Suite to send cold emails from, which manage your IPs for you, or closely monitor your own IP if you're running your own email server. But honestly, I don't recommend it because that just causes too many nightmares. Another tip that you should do is spread your emails across different domains and inboxes. A lot of people, they just run one email account off of one domain. Not only could that put you on blacklist, fry your domain, make it so all your emails go to spam, but you just can't send as many emails when you do that. So different domains. So let's say you had marketing.com. You could buy an email like trymarketing.com and build inboxes under that. Different inboxes. So let's say, once again, you had Sam at marketing.com. You could get Sammy at marketing.com. Just get more inboxes, diversify what you're sending from, because if you all send from the same email account, you're going to end up in spam. Next point, limit your sending per inbox. So don't send more than 40 emails per day per inbox. I should say cold emails per day. But more conservatively, send around 30 cold emails per day. The more you send, the more likely you're going to get into spam. And then the last thing I want to touch on for deliverability is to use a warm-up tool. So what a warm-up tool does is it sends emails automatically to other email accounts in a warm-up pool. And this boosts deliverability massively because it shows organic email usage, because emails are getting sent and replied. This is a mandatory thing if you're sending pretty much anything over like 10 emails a day. I would say you need to use a warm-up tool. And honestly, if you're sending 10 emails per day, I think you should still use a warm-up tool, because if you send cold emails, your emails aren't going to get replied to as much as other emails. And if you have a really low reply rate, it's going to look like spam. So what I'll say is don't mess this up. If you mess this up, it's going to ruin everything else. If people don't see your emails, they're not getting delivered. It's just going to ruin everything else, because if they don't see your emails, it doesn't matter how good your copy is, your offer, basically everything else in this video. So don't mess this up. Make sure you're using a warm-up tool. Make sure you're limiting your sending and follow the other best practices. Tip number 5, volume. So it's 2023. Cold email tools have become so much more accessible in the last years. Cold email tools have legitimately become 10x cheaper than the legacy tools that were popular years ago. You can even send cold emails at like a decent scale for $30 a month. For the same amount years ago, it probably would have cost 10x that, like legitimately at the same scale. So this is great for people just starting out, but this has massively lowered the barrier to entry to send cold emails and has thus made it more saturated. So to combat this, you need to be doing more than your competition. 30 emails per day isn't going to cut it. I've talked to some people that do 10 emails per week and they think that's making a significant dent, but that's practically doing nothing. I would just say don't even cold email. Either go big or just don't do it at all. I'd say it's not even worth to run a cold email campaign unless you're sending a minimum of 100 emails per day. Anything less than this, you're going to get lost in the noise. It's going to take too much time, effort, and energy for basically what you're going to get out of this. So minimum 100 emails per day. And you might as well explore other ways to reach out if you're doing anything less than that, because of the warm up, the time delay, etc. So the main point, just remember, more emails equals more meetings. Sales is a numbers game. You guys should know this. You need to reach out to a lot of people and you're going to get a lot of meetings. There's a direct correlation between the people you reach out to and the meetings you book. If you reach out to 100 people versus 1,000 people, you're probably going to get 10x the amount of bookings, because it's just a numbers game. So tip number 6, test. This is the last tip I have for you guys. Everything above is going to make significant differences in how many meetings you book, the best way to figure it out is to test different things for yourself. So split test different copy angles, split test different audiences, split test different ways of personalizing your emails, split test different offers. Just test everything. The best way to know what actually interests people is to show it to the market and see what happens. Sometimes you're going to be surprised at what the market responds to. I've been surprised multiple times, and other times it'll just make sense. The only way that you can figure out is just to try. So I'd recommend sending out a minimum test size of 1,000 or so emails, preferably higher, to understand if your split test is actually significant. So maybe split it up into 2 different categories, send 1,000 emails out to each minimum, and then see which one gets the better result, because that'll truly tell you what will work better over cold email. You need to split test all these different things: copy angles, audience targeting, personalization methods, different offers. Test everything, test different angles, and you'll be surprised at what you get, and you'll ultimately figure out what works the best. So I'll tell you, apply these tips, you're going to get the results that you want. And if you're currently making over 10K a month, you're running a B2B business, and you're looking to fill your calendar with more qualified sales meetings on a pay-per-show basis, then check the link in the description, enivomarketing.com. You can apply and work with us, and we can handle it all for you using cold email. If you have any other questions or you have any ideas for videos, feel free to leave it in the description. Otherwise, best of luck to you guys. Good luck getting those meetings.